Hello. I don't know if I'm live. Just as I was I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So just as I was about to start this feed, first of all, I'm having to use my laptop because my other devices are dead because it doesn't look it, but it's very gray and overcast, and we have no solar power. I haven't been able to charge the devices. So it was a big trouble, and I came down and had to plug the car into the solar panels to charge the batteries so I could have enough power to do this. So anyways, just as I was about to start the video, Facebook like totally changed the interface. The complete interface for Facebook Live is now totally different. So if you're out there, and I have no idea if you are because it no longer tells me if anybody's here, and it should, please let me know. Just type into the comment section. Let me know if the audio and the video are okay, and then we'll get going. I don't like this so far because there's no way to tell. It used to, at least it had up here, how many people were watching or if anybody was watching. There's no worse feeling than sitting here talking and nobody out there and nobody. I mean, if I knew that's what was going to happen, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. But what generally happens on these things is I sit here and talk for about 2 or 3 minutes and I get frustrated because I'm not getting any feedback and I don't know if the sound or the video is working, and then I end up canceling it. So that's probably what will happen here. We're 1 minute and 40 seconds in and I'm not seeing anybody here. This is a brand new interface. I don't really know how it works. I don't know if I'm doing it right. And I got from I have no idea what's going on now. Now I lost the pages I was on. Okay, now it's finally the comments are finally showing up. All right. So somehow I'm going to have to delete the first 2 minutes because it's just horrible. It's horrible. There's got to be a technology where you can go on the air. People know you're on there. You could do like real quickly. They can say, hey, the sound and video is good. And then you get going. It shouldn't take 2.5, 3 minutes for that to happen. And what happens is if I just want to take this video and ship it over to YouTube, then I've got 2 or 3 minutes of me babbling like a monkey at the beginning of the video because I have no idea if I'm just sitting there talking to myself. So anyways, this is a participatory exercise. So I do have some things I want to talk about, but I'm here for you. I already know the things that I want to say. And so I'm here for you. If you guys have questions or comments, topics, or things you want to talk about, in case you missed the beginning, because who knows if you did or not. Facebook just changed the entire interface on this thing. It does not tell me how many people are on here, or if there's even anybody on here. I see some comments that happened a minute or two ago, but that's it. So I don't like it so far. We'll have to find another way to do this, or hopefully they'll fix that. And so I'm probably I get disturbed at stuff like this. Why change it if you're not going to make it better? If one of the main elements of the whole Facebook Live was I was able to look up there and see if there was anybody here, I could say hi to them when they checked in. That part's gone. So welcome everybody. Glad you could be here. It's overcast and there's no sun, and that means that I do not have any solar power, which right now we get basically on demand, just in time, like you get your groceries. And that means I don't, thank you, Michael. That means I don't have, my batteries are really not storing any power. They're just kind of a conduit. And so thank you, Pat. What that means is that I'm using my laptop instead of my usual devices that allow me to be a little bit more mobile. And so that's kind of a difficulty. Today, I was going to talk to you a little bit about the death struggle of stupidity that the left and the right are grappling towards the abyss. Just a classic. The other day, I used the term tsunami of stupidity, and that's actually what's going on. And so I wanted to describe that a little bit, but first I want to tell you the hazards in doing that. First of all, regardless of who you are, almost all of you, not all of you, almost all of you are find yourself in one of these two camps. The whole world has been bifurcated into this left-right false paradigm where you basically you absorb and emit your opinions based on your political party's statements for the day, and those sides switch sides but generally I can wake up in the morning. I don't have to watch Fox. I don't have to watch CNN. I don't have to watch MSNBC. I don't have to watch any of that stuff. I can just go look on social media and I can know what a particular political party's talking points for the day are, because everybody's just kind of spewing those things out. This is not a political talk. We're going to be talking about coronavirus and quarantines and preparedness and supplies and those kind of things. And so I have to do these disclaimers at the beginning, because if I'm going to talk about both political parties harshly, if you have a problem with that, if you're going to get triggered because somebody says that the general position of your political party is stupid, then you're going to probably have a problem with this. Also, because there's two main parties, I have to talk about one first. And so I thought about, well, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, heads or tails, which one I'm going to talk first. But then I no doubt somebody would say, oh, well, you picked this party to be the head and the other one to be the tail because of that's where we are in political discussion today. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate everybody checking in. Let me know you're here, saying hi, greetings, like we were in the same room together. That's always a very polite and pleasurable thing. And so I'm just going to start, and I'm going to tell you why the left and the right today are locked in a death struggle of stupidity. Starting with the left, their general thesis going back to election night 2016 is we will do anything to remove this president who we don't like. Anything, whatever the thing is, whatever the hammer is, whatever the cudgel is. And so all you have to do is be paying attention, and you can see it was one thing after another leading up to impeachment. And so this, and nothing ever went out of the news, because the news is predominantly spewing that worldview. That side of it, nothing ever went out of the news until the next thing was ready. And so now, if you don't see anything else on the news, then coronavirus, that's because that's the new thing. And so the problem that the left has had is, and not only left and right together, people get their talking points from the news and they emit them, little sock puppets. And so they are not individuals who think, how can I stabilize my surroundings and my community so that I can be a benefit to other people and be. So what's happened is, from the very beginning of this thing, many people on the left, and there are exceptions. Please let me know. I know that most of you are in one of these political parties. There are exceptions, and I'm certain you think you're one of them. And so I grant that. But I got to be able to scroll over here because I can't see what's going on. But what has happened is that if somebody comes out and they say this is going to be horrible, that handling of this is horrible, everybody's going to die because the president or somebody moved too slowly, we've got a ignoramus in chief, and now everybody's going to die because of that. When you start with the thesis that this thing is going to be the worst thing ever, and you ignore any historical comparisons or any of those type of things, and all you do is cherry pick the news that feeds that narrative, then you're going to end up in a place, and that place is going to be different. And I'm going to get to, after I show you what the both errors are, I'm going to show you what that causes. You're going to get to a place and you're not going to want to be in that place, because what you're doing, what you have done, is you have started the ball rolling on a nationwide reaction that you no longer have any control over. And the people who are in charge of the mechanisms of controlling the reaction that your behavior has caused are the people on the other side. So the person who decides if there's going to be martial law or they're going to close all the interstates or whatever the thing is not the people that you particularly like. So in other words, there's a ball rolling now, and what is the word for that, Chris Haywalt? There's a word for it where you unleash something and you no longer have control of it. Maybe I can't think of the word off the top of my head. And so that's kind of what's happened. And I can tell somebody's political persuasion almost from their opinion, because I have said from the very beginning, I don't know anything about the coronavirus. I am not an epidemiologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert on anything like that. I'm an expert on preparedness, survival, off-grid living, long-term separation from the system, and how to do things. And I'm a little bit of an expert on human nature and how people behave. And so on that side of the aisle, you have these people who have been screeching at the top of their lungs that everyone's going to die because the president's an a-hole. And now, so let's get to the other side. The very troublous thing coming from the people on the right has been that it's nothing. It's nothing but a cold. It's nothing but the flu. And what they've done is they've zoomed in like a microscope on the issue of the virus. They are not epidemiologists either. They're not virus experts either. And they are definitely cherry picking information just like anybody else is. But they've totally, completely ignored the fact that the virus doesn't mean anything. I have said for many years, and I believe it's in almost all of my apocalyptic style books, that the thing is never the thing. If you go back and you look at the World War I, the thing was not an assassination in Serbia. That was not the thing. Everything that was intertwined, that was tangled together, these alliances and all of that, that was the thing. The thing is not the virus. And as long as you're looking at the virus and saying completely moronic and stupid things like, well, I don't know why people are buying toilet paper. You can't stop the virus with toilet paper. That means you're looking at the virus and not the fact that people are reacting on both sides of this equation to what's going on in the society and the things that they're hearing and the things that they're imbibing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you renamed it Ain't No Problem virus. It doesn't matter. Once the thing starts rolling and people are scared and they don't know what to do and they are ignorant. I talked this a long time yesterday in the video. As long as that's going on, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I couldn't scream it loud enough by scream, you morons. If you're sitting there saying that the virus is not, telling people that only 1,000 people have died, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter how many people have died. It doesn't matter how deadly the disease is. Once the society, the mass man starts moving, that's like sitting there trying to, have you ever seen the fish in the big schools and they all flit together? You can't sit there and say, well, it was just a piece of plankton that was over here that spooked one of them and they all took off. It's ridiculous to try to sit there and focus in on the thing that you say is not a thing when the reaction is already happening and the reaction is unmanageable. That's what I sit here and I watch, and you think that if you just yell it louder. So here's an example. And I want to get into the analogy of the sinking boat ferry in a bit, so don't let me forget. But here's an example. You are in a sports arena, rugby, one of those where the hooligans go crazy and some fence collapses and 5,000 people die because of a stampede, and you're like, heading out. You have the ability to get out. You have the ability to help other people get out, but there's a very narrow walkway to get out because they've put up all these gates and things because of terrorism. And you got to get through it one at a time. So, perhaps you're the most brilliant person in the world and you realize there's not really a problem. You realize out of 100,000 people in this stadium, only 100 people are going to die. One little section is going to collapse. And if everybody stays calm, everything's going to be okay. But you see, you could have got people out. Instead, you're telling everybody to not do anything or not react or whatever, or you're just calling them stupid and you're not leaving. And then when the stampede starts, it's too late. It's too late to do it what you think you're doing, which is to scold people. It's just too late. And so 5,000 people end up dying, and it's not from the thing that was the problem. It's not from the coronavirus. Bigger problems can happen because of the reaction to it. And just telling people, getting on TV or getting on social media and saying calm down is the exact same as standing in front of your wife and saying calm down. It does not have the reaction that you think that it has. Telling people to calm down does not calm them down. Being calm sure does help. And it is not calm to ignore the reality of the fact. So here's the thing, right-wingers. I have seen at least 4 or 5 of you in the last week say something like this. You bunch of idiots. You bunch of selfish pieces of crap. I don't know what you're doing. Why are you crazy? Why are you all going out and buying XYZ? I don't know. Now, I haven't been able to get to the store, and now I can't buy XYZ, and I need it because all of these reasons that make your reasons more important than anybody else's. So they're actually sitting there saying, well, I needed something, but I can't get it because you thought you needed it and you bought more than your share. We're back to the whole thing of crypto socialism. Rather than being reasonable and saying, you know what, this thing's been coming for a month and a half. You didn't have to panic. You didn't have to wait till the last minute. You didn't have to wait 9 days to go to the store. You didn't have to sit there twiddling your thumbs, telling everybody else they're stupid for day after day after day. And then when you decide to go to the store, you're upset because other stuff is gone. The fact is that there's still, I'm certain of it, is not a toilet paper shortage in America. Most likely it is a distribution problem at this point, and it will catch up pretty fast as long as things don't get worse. But it's likely things are going to get worse, and if you're not planning on things to get worse, you are continuing to be part of the problem. And so we have these two idiotic sides who have made it a political issue. Their opinions are completely and utterly political. If you're out there saying, this ain't nothing, this is just a cold, this is all just drummed up, I'm almost willing to bet I could write down who your political party is. And if you're out there saying this thing has been completely horribly handled and it's going to be bad and 1 million people are going to 7.9 million people, 100 million people are going to die, I can probably predict. And so the reasonable people who are willing to say, I'm not an astrophysicist, I'm not a physician, I'm not an expert on anything, but I'm not unreasonable. Here's what I said from the very first day and what I've been saying on every one of these videos. I'm not an expert on those things, but I know how people act. So screaming now that you can't buy toilet paper because of all the stupid people, you're the stupid person. Hate to tell you, it's like the slowest moving systemic crisis in history. I put a picture up today. It was from the Mike Myers movie, and where the steamroller's rolling towards the guard. He's like, stop, stop. And it's rolling for minutes and minutes and minutes, and it finally rolls over him. That's basically my impression of what's been going on. And so I wanted to tell you a few stories. One of those is a famous story, and you could put it is both true and that these things have really happened. The studies about that I'm going to mention really happened. The actual details are conglomerations of a lot of different events. But so the story is that there was a ferry that ferried boats, ferried cars across a large body of water, and people too. And there were thousands and thousands of people on this ferry. And this happens quite a lot. But there was something that happened, something really pretty trivial, but it became exacerbated because of human reactions and misreactions to it. And this ferry started to sink. The cars and the vehicles on it shifted, which accentuated the problem. They were not all moored properly. And what happened is this ferry it was in very, very deep water, started to sink. And it took a long time for this ferry to sink, but there was no help coming, and hundreds of people died. And because of this and several other similar accidents, there were some studies done about how people react in times of crisis. And in this particular study, it was accentuated by the fact that there were cameras throughout the ferry, and these experts could actually sit there and watch each individual and see how and hundreds of people died. What they found is there's generally what's considered an 80-20 rule, which is that 80% of the people just do nothing positive whatsoever to save themselves or anyone else. And in fact, they do things that are negative towards their own survival and the survival of anybody else. 20% of the people that are left, something like 17% were immobile or did not they didn't do anything to negatively kill themselves or anybody else, I guess, but they didn't do anything positive to help themselves or anybody else. And something like my math's probably way off. 80-20. So it was anyway 17. Then there's 3% left. The whole point is that 3% of the people actually did something positive that saved their own life or saved the life of someone else. 3%. And that number, in some cases, in some emergencies, is kind of high. So that's about what you can expect. When you walk through a Walmart, or when you walk through a mall, or when you are at the Consumer Electronics Show, or you are on a major street in a major city, 97% of the people that are around you will react poorly or not at all in response to a crisis, even if it's unrolling or unveiling slowly. Whereas about and let me know, Chris, if we may have included this story in the book Wick. I can't remember if we did or not. But 3% of the people actually do something positive to save themselves or other people. And this same statistic is held up in the LA riots. It's held up in a lot of other situations. And so what that means is that if you're not one of the people that is actually looking not at just at the problem, if you are running from the bulls or running with the bulls, and you are only looking at the bull, you are probably going to trip up other people, and get gored and maybe die. You cannot run the race looking backward at the problem, because the problem ceases to be the problem in a crisis almost instantly. So hopefully some of you people read post-apocalyptic books. Hopefully you read Wick, the Wick Omnibus, but you will see that the train of things, the dominoing of events after a crisis, no matter how small the crisis is, can often be worse than the actual thing that's happening. And that especially happens when you have people with bullhorns who are shouting the thing up because they have a perceived benefit from things going bad. And so here's going back to the two political parties and their motivation. You actually have people on both sides now who are giddy, almost excited to see what's going on so that they can blame the other people. And so when I see things that are valuable, where somebody's actually saying, listen, I don't know what's going on, I don't know how bad it's going to get, but hey, we've got a list of preparedness kind of survival people. And Nick Cole, my friend Nick Cole, is doing this, and there's hundreds of people on it. and they're all over the place and all over the world. If you need help, these people will say where they are, and you can contact them. If you need medicines, if you're old and you need help, that's the kind of thing I'd like to see. This is not some kind of virtue signaling about me doing all this stuff, because I got my hands full of it as it is. I'm already poor and we have vehicles that don't run. I can't go anywhere. And so, I'm here right now doing this for free because I'm trying to help people. And so here's the thing. I want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to answer your questions. Please, please, please type in questions, comments, or topics into the comments section. It takes a minute or two for me to get them, and it sure does make this better. But I just wanted to let you know, please leave your political mentality aside for just a little while. Michael Bunker is not saying this whole thing's going to go off the deep end and everyone's going to die. And Michael Bunker is not saying it's not a problem and everything's going to be fine, because I don't know that. And if I did know that, because I don't know, maybe I'm a time traveler, I wouldn't be able to tell you because of the time cops. So the time cops, you're allowed to give away a certain amount of things. It's like a very tiny percentage, but you also have to get a certain number of things wrong. So it's like 52% you have to get wrong, or else, because the time cops are watching, and the time cops will come get you and like make you go back to your time if you're getting too much stuff right, because they don't like that. And so even if I knew how things were going to turn out, this would be a huge one to get right. I wouldn't do it just because I don't want to risk getting deported back to my own time period. And so, and that's the thing, because I was completely wrong about the 2016 election on both, basically all across the board, because I needed to hit my 52%. I had gotten too much right that year, and so I had to scale it down a little bit. Unquestionably, somebody right now thinks that I was serious about all of that, because I'm deadpan and because I'm a good actor. Listen, Hollywood, people that say I can't play Goa Eagles, I'm a good actor. I just acted my way through the whole story about time travels. And people out there are like, this guy's nuts. There is a Facebook group called Comms Connect US. They help people all across the country. Thank you, Michael Barton. Helpful information is helpful. Please, if you are out there and you're just not just sitting there, this is a participatory event. Please type in a question or comment or some topic so that we can talk about things, and I'm not just going to sit here and bluster. I sit there and I go, I think about a dozen things. No, I was actually telling the truth, Michael, but I have to pretend like I was acting so that the time cops don't get me. Why do you make this so hard? So, anyways, I think of all these things. So today, we had to go to town. Second time in 2 days. I had not been to town in a long time, but second time in 2 days, we had to go to town. I had to get some itch cream. And so, so we got some itch cream and some coffee. Here's another thing, and I'll get to your question in just a minute. Coffee, so much better of a hoarding, stockpiling item. Everybody rush out and let's clear the stores of coffee. That's so much smarter. It's such a good barter item. Do you know, I would give up every roll of toilet paper there is to not run out of coffee. Just think about it. Okay, Michael, if you lived in an area like some of us where supplies and goods are being bought up, what top 3 to 5 things would you recommend that people should stock first? I know food is a must. I would get away to, and I'm going to have to guess because I don't know exactly what you mean, the kind of place where you live. I'm sure, I'm thinking it's probably a suburb. I would get away to purify water that does not require heat. So I'd get a water purifier. Cheap one is one of those pure water filters. And a more expensive one is a big Berkey. I would get away to store. I wouldn't go out and buy water at the store, but just make sure that you have access. If you don't have a way right now to catch water off your roof, I would rig one really, really fast. But as far as storing things up for, let me give you a scenario sometime in the next week. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I keep having to say these things because some idiot is going to put out a blog or something saying I said something or that I've been an alarmist during this whole thing. I'm looking for somebody out there who's really good at computers to go through the last 5 videos and snip out every part where I've said I am not an expert on coronavirus. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not predicting what's going to happen, blah, 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 and clip all those together and send it to me because that would be huge when I'm going to need it. So going back to that 3 to 5 things, I would probably get things like, so let me think. Long-term storage, meat or food items. Probably you could get some dried sausage or something like that. Water purification device or application. And if you have need of medications or over the counter or otherwise, I would try to get as much of that stored as you can. If you don't have need of those things, there's a long list we could make of things that would be better. And of course, self-defense items would be on there if you are of such a worldview that this sort of thing is appropriate. Rural Appalachian area is our location. Okay, well, you're doing a lot better than a lot of people. You want to be able to catch water. You want to be able to purify water. Those are you want to be able to start a fire without fuel. As far as, you don't need a lighter. You could buy a box of lighters. I guess that'd get you through it. A big box of matches, but having a way to start a fire, a way to cook outside would be a good idea. As far as food and things like that, for a month or two, bags of beans, rice, and salt, as much salt as you can carry and store, I would definitely do. And then our grocery store carries dried smoked sausages. You can order them online. You could store a whole bunch of that stuff. It's a protein source with fat that will keep people alive in small quantities. We went to Walmart last night to pick up a few things. My wife needed to host a baby shower. The entire toilet paper aisle was empty. A few areas of the groceries were low, but everything was well stocked for the most part. Today, the traffic around town is insane for a Saturday. Not sure if it is spring break or what. Most likely, it's people trying to go out and get things. The tide is turning on the toilet paper. It's going to switch over to more reasonable things, but that doesn't mean that the insanity is going to change. You're going to see more people that are getting rice and beans and protein. And what you don't get is things that most people go get: milk and bread, perishables. Not a real good idea. Anything that needs to go in the refrigerator is not a good idea. Medications is a good idea. You can go to and I talked about it on an earlier video, antibiotics. You can get animal antibiotics. You can get things even from Amazon, like angstrom silver, are a good idea. Chris Ewalt says, in regard to your comments on coffee and wick, both, I think of that scene where Veronica breathes in the coffee to get a sense of that connection to the past, breathes in, even as she can't remember the last time she was able to properly brush her teeth. Yeah. Salt, Brianna, because it's probably one of the most valuable elements in the world. And because of its ready availability, we seem to think that it is not important, but you will die a short amount of time without it. It's also very valuable for preserving food. So let's just say, flight of fancy, that a collapse happens. You are able to secure an animal. Perhaps you hunt a deer. Perhaps you get a rabbit or a larger animal, a goat, or you trade something for a sheep or something like that. If you are not able to preserve that animal, then the meat's going to go bad. We're coming into spring and summer, and so you have to have salt. Salt without refrigeration, which we have no idea if the power grid's going to stay up. I can give you a scenario where, regardless of whether coronavirus is good or bad, the power grid goes down. Not only are we susceptible on a lot of different levels for this being a diversion. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist here. I'm speculating on things. But at some point, if things go bad, if they shut down the interstate highway system, if people can't get to work, if enough people get sick, if the hospital system starts breaking down, you're going to have people that work at places like the electric company that go home to take care of their own families. And so salt is a necessary preservative. It's also a wonderful barter item. And I'm not talking about small amounts of salt. I'm talking about very large amounts of salt. Salt is very cheap. You should always, always, always have a lot of salt on hand. I'm a big salt guy. All right. And so rice, beans, salt, canned meat, and seasonings. Yep. You're pretty much got it settled there. Water purification. We've been buying a few extra non-perishables on each shopping trip for the last several weeks. Here's another bunker tip that I've been doing for 20 years. You don't ever buy one of anything at the grocery store. Unless it's something you only need one time, and you're only ever going to need one time. But I never buy one loaf of bread. I never buy one bottle of mustard. I don't buy one package of hamburger meat. I buy two. One is none, and two is one. 3 is 2, which means once you use it, it's gone. You may not. Every trip you take to the store could be your last. That is not doomsday. That is just common sense. Every trip you take to the store could be your last one. And so if you just think that way, you don't panic. You're still reasonable. You still make reasonable decisions. I was at the store today. I didn't buy toilet paper or anything. I went and bought what I needed. But start thinking about things. I'm going to do a show probably Monday, or I'm probably not going to do a show tomorrow unless something happens. Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to do a show on alternatives to toilet paper. But I want to talk about some other stuff too. Wally Peterson says Sawyer Squeeze water filter, about $20 at Walmart. Good filtering for lots of water and small and easy to carry. Okay, that's a personal suggestion. So that, like I said, a pure water filter for your house. They do have straws too, those filter straws. How do you store your salt? You have trouble with it clumping from humidity? Even if you do, it's not. In fact, they used to, back in the 1600s, they sold salt in clump. They clumped it on purpose, and then you just shave off into your food. So it would come in like a cone. And so there's no problem with it clumping. But if you don't want it to clump, you put it into a 5-gallon bucket. You could throw a bunch of Ritz crackers or saltines, pun intended, in there, and they will absorb some of the moisture. You can get those expensive moisture absorbing packs. Personally, I don't care if moisture gets in there. Salt is a purification device. It's a purification method. And salt is not going to go bad. So even if you filled it up with water and then you drained out the water and it solidified into one large block, you chip some off and you scrape it with the back of a knife into your food or whatever you need it for. So it's not really that much of a problem. There's no hamburger meat left in Anchorage. That is going to be an issue. I mean, in Anchorage, hopefully there's people that are going to be doing some hunting. But get your protein source. If you can still order on Amazon, you can order things on Amazon. You can order things through ButcherBox or somebody else like that. There's a lot of these businesses that are hurting because nobody's ordering from them. Hello, Brock Russell Smith, my friend, the Kingfish. Welcome. There's a lot of businesses that are hurting. There's a lot of restaurants in your area that are hurting, that are open. You can probably buy hamburger from them. They probably would love to sell you things. Look at restaurant supplies, but just got to be creative and think outside of the box. No rice, no noodles. Okay. Pasta wouldn't be way up high on my list other than the fact that it's a dried food and it's good carbs if people need it. Noodles. Rice I would definitely get. Noodles not so much. But again, try a restaurant. A lot of restaurants are sitting empty right now, and they probably wouldn't mind selling product. Russell says they are throwing out the hours of service laws for the trucks hauling food and medical. Yeah, I figured that was coming. If I was gambling, I would say we're going to see some type of interstate highway shut down for everybody but commercial vehicles and those with special permits, probably in the next 7 days. I could be wrong about that. I'm just gambling and guessing, but I think. But truckers, like everybody else, are, if they get concerned enough, are going to go home to take care of their family members and their loved ones. My hope is, and my prayer is, that things are going to get stabilized here pretty quick. And I don't believe we're in a toilet paper shortage. I believe we're in a toilet paper delivery problem because of the just-in-time delivery. I think we're going to see that get sorted, but I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. I'm not a doom and gloomer, but I prepare for the worst. You should be preparing for the worst. Russell said, I bought a new fishing pole and some tackle. Excellent idea. I took the screws out of our door and had someone replace them with long screws. Okay. Security is a good idea. Yeah, you're worrying about the fuel stop employees going home. Yeah. There could be some type of order come down that National Guard takes over those positions, or fuel is going to be metered out. All of that's likely to happen. Fuel is another thing. I'm not telling people. Gas is very, very cheap almost where everybody is right now. If you have gas cans, if not, you could get gas cans and get you some gas. Again, not telling anybody to run out and stockpile more than you need. But again, I don't care about hoarding. I don't care about accusations. If you have money, you earned it, and you are a free person and something's for sale, you should be allowed to buy it. So fuel is probably a good idea. I did tell my son today, he went to town. He is living in a camper, and they're operating with a generator. They're off-grid, but they're not beyond off-grid yet. And so I did tell him, you need to, the gas is like $1.92 in town. You need to fill up some gas cans so you can run that generator for a little while. Of course, we are all prepared to have no generators and have no electricity and none of this stuff. We've been prepared for that for 15 years. But that said, we're talking about things that people could. I think the fishing pole is a great idea. Some tackle, that sort of thing's got a window when it's. If things don't get too bad, it can be great. At some point, if things get really, really bad, those things can be kind of dangerous unless you know where you are. Will there be anything left on April 1st? That's my fear. I don't know. I'm not an expert in any of that stuff. So I hope that things are going to get sorted. My prayer is that things are going to get sorted. My life has been lived that eventually they won't. And either way is fine with me. I mean, I don't want things to go bad. I'm not hoping things go bad. I'm sitting here right now working for this hour for free. And so I really hope things don't go bad. I got a movie being made from my book that I want to go forward. And so my hope is that things are going to get sorted, that things are going to calm down a little bit. And I'm really hoping that people stop listening to their political party, their message on whether things are going to be good or bad, because those people don't know anything. It's like listening to the people who have a vested interest in you being on one side or the other. That's just not the thing right now. The thing isn't the thing. It's never the thing after the thing. That's true, Dan Brennan. All right, Michael, see you. Appreciate you coming by. We've got a little bit more time. If you have questions, please type your questions into the comments, and we can deal with a few more before we go. And I also wanted to tell everybody during this break, while I'm waiting for a question to come up, I put these things live on Facebook because I seem to get a better interactivity and it works a little bit better. I'm going to try to figure out how to do these on YouTube where it actually works. I don't have as big of an audience that interacts with me on YouTube, and that's a self-perpetuating thing because I'm not on there enough. But if you are watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. Please like this video. Please leave a comment. and please watch the whole video, because that's the way the algorithm works that allows them to recommend it to other people. Not enough people are sharing these videos. I'm just getting tons and tons and tons of comments, private emails, and other information from people who are saying how much they're appreciating them, how much it's helped them, how much it's helping their family stay calm, and yet they're not sharing them with anybody. And so it's kind of ridiculous that somebody can do a video where they try to eat 36 donuts in an hour, and that thing will get 70,000 hits. And this video, or the videos that I've done over the last week with helpful information about how to think and how to react and what things are of value, how to do things, answering your questions. I'm here to answer your questions. If you're on YouTube and this is not live, you can still put your questions in the comment section. And if it's a big enough one, I'll do a whole program on it. I'll do a whole video on it. So type your questions into the comments right now, or type your questions into the comments below if you're on YouTube. But do like this video. Please leave a comment. Please share. I need to get watch hours. Watch hours are what we need to get this thing going to where this can be a regular program, and I can talk about a lot of different stuff, do goofy things. Michael Barton says, I go on YouTube even if I've watched it live. I start the video, hit mute, and let it run in the background. Excellent, man. That more people should do that. More people should run my videos on mute. Hey, man, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you doing it. But that's just the way it is. And I am doing this on my own time, and I appreciate it. Okay, so the other thing is we're still doing our fundraiser. I still got my Patreon, and if you're on YouTube, my Patreon will be down below. But I'm also going to put the link to the fundraiser below, because right now I've got 2 dead vehicles. I got one gimme hand me down vehicle that runs, but is not in really, really great shape, and we've got to get it registered. And my solar power is basically shot because all my batteries are dead, which is why I've got the car running into the power running into the solar trailer right now. And we're trying to get enough money and stuff to get those things replaced. I don't have a problem if there's a crisis, because we're prepared to do what we need to do for a long period of time. So you don't have to worry about me about that. But most likely things are going to get sorted, and I'm here to help you during this time. But if you guys could help me out, go to that fundraiser. It's going to be, and I'll also put it in the comment section here. If somebody wants to go ahead and do that, find my fundraiser, you could put a link in the comment section. If not, I'll do it. And if you could go and do a small donation of whatever is, maybe whatever you're not spending driving to work this next week, that would be very helpful to us. You can also, if you're on Facebook, rather than doing it through the fundraiser, because they take a portion of that, you can PM me, private message me, and you can do it directly through there, and there's no fee either way. So 100% of the money gets utilized. So, okay, guys, we're here, and I'm looking for your questions and comments. It's been a great program so far. If you just tuned in, make sure you go back to the beginning and watch it. I did a rant against the 2 major parties and their position on what's going on. Yeah, please. Thank you for watching, Pat. But type in your questions if you have any, because that's what I'm here for. What do you do for fun off grid on days you have to stay in? I read, but the teenagers, a lot of stuff. I mean, I read a lot. I do a lot of writing. I'll talk about the teens in a little bit. But we also do projects. And so we pick something that we want to do. It's something we want to achieve at a family. And we do that. So like one project may be, building rabbit hutches, or, a project may be building pig pens. A project could be, hey, we're going to turn off the power, or we're going to not use something for just a personal challenge. There's a lot of things you can do in personal interactivity that improves your ability or your percentage of likelihood of survival. So, anyways, that's kind of the thing we do. But there's conversation is always the thing. We used to have, back before there was the 24-hour news cycle, we used to sit around and talk, sit out in the back porch and talk or something like that. And so those things are always valuable for teenagers. I would definitely get teenagers involved in a project. All of us could improve our survivability. There are projects out there that would help you do that. And I would pick a project like something, chicken hutch. If you can't keep animals because you're in town, then start building a water catchment system and get your teenagers involved in that. Explain to them why it's important and that it's not panicky and it's not conspiracy tinfoil hat stuff. Michael Barton says they have canceled all school in Alabama for the next 2 weeks starting on Wednesday. Yeah, there's going to be, that's eventually going to be everything that's going on is going to be nationwide. They're rolling it out. And I think what we're probably going to see, like I said, is some shutdowns in transportation coming up early next week. And I think there's going to be they're not going to use the word quarantine, some containment areas that are going to spring up. We're going to see probably checkpoints and that kind of thing. People just need to be ready to stay at home for several weeks, up to a month or two. And if you can't do that, you need to start thinking very seriously about what you could do to increase your probability of being able to do that. I'm going to continue to be here. I'm going to continue to answer your questions as much as I can. I'm going to do some specific programs on things like how to go without toilet paper and meat, perhaps meat handling without refrigeration. You guys put your suggestions down there. What things would you like to see me do? And put those in the comment section on YouTube because your comments are beneficial. Michael said, I'm starting to build things by cutting pine trees and stripping the bark to make poles. Excellent. Look up, if you don't watch him already, Fowler on it's Fowler's Makery and Mischief on YouTube. He does a lot of that kind of stuff. Bushcrafting, and bushcrafting is a great skill to know. It's actually the most principle. The principle. I don't know what I'm using. It's the most basic form of survival is bushcrafting. So that's always a good idea. All right, y'all. Anybody else got any questions? We got about 9 more minutes, maybe like 8 more minutes. And I'll be glad to stay here as long as you need me to. But if not, then I got other things I can do. And so, including spend time with my family. Got grandchildren here, which has been great. 2 of my grandboys are here. My son is here. His wife is here. We're enjoying the time together. Anyways, I'm hoping that everything's going to turn around pretty quickly. I really would like to see the movie project for my book start going really quickly, and it's probably not going to budge as long as all of this stuff's going on. So I, just like all of you, want things to get better. What do you have to build with on your land? I mainly saw mesquite. We do have mesquite. We have a lot of oak. We have about 5 different kinds of oak. We have post oak, and I think black oak and red oak, and a few other live oak. And then we've got some other ones that I can't. We've got some elm, and there's another one that's a really, 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 really hard wood. I can't think of the name of it. I'll have to think of them. How can folks with little or no money acquire enough garden seed to feed a family? There's a couple sites online that sell, but like here, I live in a very, very rural area, and there are usually seed companies. And also, like, there's a store in Brownwood, Texas. I don't know where you're located, but there's a store where it's a farmer's market kind of store, and they sell trees and they sell that sort of thing. And they have just bulk seed. You can go in and buy bulk lettuce seed. You can buy bulk tomato seed, bulk beans. I would focus on trying to plant some single, not planting one thing only, but pick one product that you're going to plant a bunch of. And whether it's green beans or something like that, something that has a lot of nutritive value, and then all your other things. Most people believe that they are planting a garden generally for making a salad. You need to not be in the salad mentality. You need to be in, how can I get good quality nutrition in a small amount of space to my family? So, but there are seed companies online, but I would think about maybe somebody local. If you can get non-hybrid seed, then if this thing was to really melt down and go for a long period of time, you could keep your seed from one crop to the next year. Locust. I don't think it's locust, Michael. I'll have to think of what the name is. I think it starts with a B. Uh, Clyde says, in a small rural area or even small towns and neighborhoods, if the power goes down, what are some ways that families and neighborhoods can communicate without the use of cell phones and being in close quarters of each other, especially if areas are quarantined? Of course, you can use a handheld radios, family radios. Get you some rechargeable solar type batteries, AA, AAA, whatever your device takes. You can buy these little family radios, and then you can. And we use these in the community for years and years and years for weather updates. And so I'm, quite a ways away from my cottage, and we would have the little radios, and they work great within a certain distance. Get yourself some type of solar battery charger, and there's a couple of different ways. You can get one that has solar panels and actually it attaches to a battery charger, and there's some that actually have it all together. Just make sure you look at the reviews and get a product that works. You can also just get a small from Harbor Freight. They have a solar panel system that you can use to charge anything. They're about $250. I think they come with like 4 15-watt panels, and then they come with a charge controller, inverter, whatever else. And then you can just plug anything into it that based on the battery that you get. So, all right, Michael, see ya. I would do that, and I would use that to charge batteries, and I would use a small handheld family radios. Get you some good quality ones. In Minnesota, Montana, planting trees is called poor person's savings account. That's exactly right. And especially try to get one that will produce in the first 2 to 3 years. All right, y'all. I think we've run out of time. And so I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys sharing this. And remember to hit the like button. Before you go anywhere, hit the like button, leave a comment, and make sure that you're sharing this and all that sort of thing. I'll put the links to the fundraiser, etc., below, both on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. Everybody stay safe, and I will be back soon enough.